Our first townhome, many years ago, I was so excited to paint. I knew nothing about paint. I went to the paint store. I found this perfect warm beige, which I thought I needed to warm up my walls. We were decorating in more warmer tones. You know, I found it from that teeny tiny little paint chip. I didn't test it at home. I mean, why would you need to do that? We purchased enough gallons to drench basically all of the walls in our townhome with this color. Got home, got it on the walls. Didn't want to tell my husband, but we were both thinking of it. It was something like this. It was way too dark for my space. So if that's what you think of when you are thinking, people are saying beige is trending, beige is back. Today's beiges are nothing like that. They're light, they're airy, they're fresh. They are perfect for updating homes that were built in the 90s and early 2000s, where builders were using the brown granite and the travertine and a lot of peachy brown tiles and stuff like that. Perfect for updating those spaces so that you can love your home now. You don't need to renovate. They're also perfect for if you are searching for a warmer color for the walls and off-whites are just a little bit too white for you and you really like to decorate in those warm tones. These beiges that I'm going to share with you are perfect. I've got 8. I've got 8 super pretty beige paint colors to share with you today. Hi everyone, I'm Ashley from the blog homelikeyoumeinit.com. I am a paint color consultant and decorator, and I help you design the home that you love. So let's get into it. I've got 8 beautiful beige paint colors. I know you're just sitting on the edge of your seats waiting to hear what beige colors I'm going to share with you today. But before we get into it, I want to talk about beige colors, their undertones, and getting it right in your space, because neutral paint colors are so hard to get right. So many people do not evaluate their space for what it is, and they just simply choose a color based on something they see online or what their friends said. They get it up on the walls and then realize, oh, this looks awful. It clashes with my furniture, or it clashes with my fireplace or my rug or whatever. So step number 1 in picking a neutral paint color is to go around the room and evaluate your fixed elements in your furnishings. So fixed elements are things like your fireplace, your floors, your countertops, your cabinets, your furnishings, obviously your couch, rug, whatever would be too expensive to change. You want to evaluate it for what it is. So let's just say you want to paint a beige paint color in your living room. Well, if you put a beige up on a wall and you've got a long gray couch with a blue undertone, it is just really going to clash. That beige is going to look even browner, even muddier. It's just not going to look good at all. It's not going to be relatable. The furniture and your accessories are not going to relate to your paint color. It's just not going to look good. You're going to end up either hating your couch or hating the paint color, and usually it's the paint color. So you need to make sure that you need a beige in the first place, and the way to do that is just evaluate what you've got. The second thing you need to be aware of are the undertones. Now, you cannot escape undertones in paint colors, especially neutral paint colors. When you're dealing with beige, you either have orange, you have pink, or you have green. There's also gold and yellow beiges, but we're not going to talk about those today. A lot of people they're not trending right now. They're kind of reminiscent of what people just plastered all over their walls in the 90s. So we're not going to talk about those today. We're going to worry about 3 of the undertones that I just mentioned, but you need to evaluate. Say you have a beige couch. Well, you need to make sure that you know if it's a beige with a green undertone, a pink undertone, or a orange undertone. Same in the kitchen. A lot of people are updating their kitchens with beiges and fresh beiges. Well, you need to evaluate what your countertops and your backsplash look like and how they relate to the beiges and the undertones to get it right, to really love the paint color. So that's just a little bit about beige colors. Hopefully that's just, in a nutshell, what you need to know when you are choosing the right beige for your space. I am going to outline 8 of my favorite beiges. I will highlight the undertone so you'll know exactly what you're dealing with. Okay, let's start with beiges with a green undertone. As I said, beiges that we're going to go over today have either green, pink, or orange undertones. Now, your green undertones, when you're dealing with your beige paint colors, are the easiest to work with. Now, that doesn't mean they're completely 100% forgiving. For example, if you have a travertine tile that is just super dominant in your kitchen, you don't want to use a green beige. You probably want to use either an orange beige or a pink beige, depending on which way your travertine tile leans towards. But for the most part, they are pretty forgiving. They're warm. They're pretty neutral in terms of will they work in a lot of different spaces. But green undertones by far are the the beiges that I tend to recommend the most. Okay, I do want to mention before we get into this, I am going to highlight the LRVs too. So LRV has to do with how light or dark a paint color is. 100 is pure white, 0 is pure black, just to give you a frame of reference, because a lot of these beiges are very, very close to off-whites. A lot of the off-whites that I tend to recommend are like 80, 81 and up. So that just kind of gives you a frame of reference. Okay, so the first one that I have for you is Sherwin-Williams Ivory Lace. It has an LRV of 79. It is very, very close to an off-white. When you think of one of my favorite off-whites, White Dove, I just did a paint color recommended or a review on that if you want to watch that. It has an LRV of 83. So this is just like a step away from off-white. So if you like the idea of a creamy white on the walls, but you want something just a little bit darker, Ivory Lace is a great one to sample. Next, we have Soft Chamois by Benjamin Moore. This has an LRV of 77. Again, it's very, very light, has a green undertone. It's just a step down from the color that I just showed you. So if you tried Ivory Lace on the walls, it was just a little bit too light, a little bit too close to White Dove, you might like this one better. Neutral Ground by Sherwin-Williams is next. We're getting a little bit darker now. This has an LRV of 70, so a little bit more pigmented. This works great, especially in kitchens that have that brown granite that's a little bit more neutral, you know, less pink, less orange. Great to freshen up that space, and just a little bit darker, but still absolutely a light paint color. I would absolutely use this throughout my open concept and not worry about it being too dark. It is very light. Final paint color on the list of beiges with green undertones is Benjamin Moore Manchester Tan. This is an all-time favorite color. I recommend this a lot, especially when updating homes that have more earthy fixed elements, like a lot of the brown granite and travertine. Now it has an LRV of 64, so it is darker. It's still what I would consider a light paint color, but if you are putting this in a room that doesn't have a lot of natural light, it's probably gonna be a little bit too dark for you. It's gonna go a little muddy, a little brown. You're gonna wanna try and find something that has a higher LRV, like some of the other colors that I mentioned. But it's great in spaces that have a lot of natural light. Okay, before I go any further, I want to give you some expert advice in terms of testing paint colors. You always, always, always want to get a sample and put it in your home and your light. Online pictures are great. Your friends' recommendations are great, but you need to see how it reacts in your home with your furnishings, your fixed elements. The best way to do this is to get a large paint sample. These are my professional color boards, but I also use those peel and stick samples that I'll link below that are absolutely great. I think they come, I'm always amazed. They're like, I order them like 2 p.m. and then the next day they're here at like 9 a.m. They come super fast. I don't take the sticking off of the peel and stick. I tend to just put it right on a white poster board using painter's tape and then put that up against the wall. The reason being, especially with neutrals, you do not want to put them on the wall. You know, just slap them up against, say you have a yellow on your wall or an orange or whatever. You don't want to put them on the wall just without a white backdrop, because it's really going to skew what the paint color actually looks like. So make sure that you always put them against a pure white backdrop, and poster board works, or computer paper works fabulously. Okay, now we're going to get into the beiges with orange undertones. I just have 2 for you. They're super light. They're not quite as versatile as the beiges with green undertones, so that's why I don't have quite as many, but they work beautifully for updating earthy finishes that are more in that orange tone. There's a lot of granites that these really work well for, a lot of travertine tile, more of the brown stone tile that we saw a lot of in the 90s and early 2000s work perfect for that. Or if you have a space where you're decorating like in a beautiful cognac couch and you've got like cream chairs, and you really want to put something warm on the walls, these work perfectly for that. The first color on my list is Benjamin Moore Navajo White. Now Sherwin-Williams also has a Navajo White, so do not get these two confused. This one is Benjamin Moore. It's got an LRV of 78, so just like the first few that I showed you in the green beige category, this is very, very light. This is just, it is a step away from off-white. So it's just gonna give you just a little bit more color, a little bit more pigment on the walls. The second color that I have for you is by Sherwin-Williams. It's Casa Blanca. Love that movie, so I love this paint color. Now it works perfectly for, again, updating spaces with granite or just putting a little bit more warmth on the walls. It has an LRV of 76, so it's a little bit more pigmented, especially compared to a lot of the brighter off-whites. So if you tested a brighter off-white or maybe even more of a muted off-white and you thought, I just want something a little bit warm, definitely check these out. Now we are moving into the beiges with pink undertones. Now these work time and time again, the two that I'm going to share with you, especially for that earthy, those earthy tones. A lot of bathrooms used a lot of that earthy granite, and that it's pink, you know, it's got a lot of pink tones coming out, or there's travertine floor in a lot of kitchens that really work well with these two colors. So I tend to recommend these a lot, and they work really well to freshen up spaces that have those tones. They also work well if you're decorating in a lot of linen, and your beiges have more of a pink undertone. These really work well to put some color on the walls that's not too dark, not too overwhelming like a lot of the beiges we saw in the early 90s, but still work well to freshen up the space. So the first one I have for you is Benjamin Moore Maritime White. It has an LRV of 71. It's a little bit more pigmented than some of the first colors I showed you from each of the other categories, but it's still what I would consider a very light paint color. I wouldn't worry about it getting too dark on the walls. It's going to be very light, going to make your space feel fresh and open and airy. The last paint color on my list is Benjamin Moore Muslin. This has an LRV of 67, so it is a little bit darker. I do recommend, if you're searching for a light and bright paint color, you want to definitely test this one out. Of course, you want to test all of the paint colors out and see how they react in your light, but you want to test this one out and make sure that, you know, the light you've got in your room is going to work well for this paint color. I do have a blog post on beige paint colors, which I will link below if you want even more information. I go more in depth if that's what you're searching for, but I hope you found a paint color that works for you. And as always, please feel free to ask me any questions you have about beige or any paint color, and hit the subscribe button if you like this content. Thanks so much for watching.